Hello my friends and welcome back to another lesson. In this lesson I'm going to be turning the Bollinger Band breakout indicator into a strategy script so that we can do some backtesting on some markets. So to start off, I'm just going to scroll down here and click here and copy the source code, jump into my Pine editor, create a new blank strategy script and paste that code in. Then I'm going to change the annotation function here to strategy instead of indicator. And I'm also going to change a couple of parameters for this strategy. I'm going to set my initial capital to $100,000 and my default quantity type to strategy.percent of equity and my default quantity value to 20% of my account balance. Save that code, make sure that compiles. There we go. I'll add it to my chart. We do have some warnings here because you cannot use the alert condition function in a strategy script. It will have no effect. So we'll get rid of those alerts for now, save our code, and we're good to get started converting the script into a strategy. So before we begin, if you're not familiar with the Bollinger Band strategy, make sure to go back and watch this indicator lesson where I created this indicator source code, because that is where I explain the logic behind the strategy. I learned this from Nick Raj. It's a trend following strategy that he's been using in the stock markets for many decades, and it's quite effective. Very simple strategy, but very effective. So we have the code ready to go. All we need to do is tweak our entry and exit code here. Let's find a signal. Here's a signal right here. We need to make the strategy tester enter a position when the signal is detected and exit the position when an exit is detected, like this red cross here. So let's do that. So here's our entry code logic. I just need to add on the end here and strategy.position underscore size equals 0. We only want to enter a new position when we are flat, and we can get rid of the in trade variable here because we are now going to use the inbuilt strategy variables to do the same thing that custom variable was doing. That flag variable that tracked when we were in a trade. Now we can use the strategy.position size inbuilt variable to do the same thing. So I can get rid of these in trades, and there we go. So the first thing we need to do is enter our position when an entry is detected. So strategy.entry, we'll give it an ID of just trade and a direction. This is a long only strategy, so strategy.long. We are only buying stocks. We are not shorting stocks with this particular strategy. Wasn't designed for that. And the when can just be set to strategy.position size equals 0. So we will only enter a new trade when we are flat and our conditions of entry are met. Next, we can use the strategy.close function to exit our position when the exit conditions are met. And I'll set the when here to just draw exit. So whenever we have an exit being drawn onto the chart, our tester will exit our long trade. So let's save the code and make sure that compiles. There we go, no problems there. And we're pretty much done. We have converted this into a strategy script. Very, very simple. This applies to any indicator you find out there or any indicator you write. All you need to do is add the entry and exit functions in the appropriate part of your code. In this case, in the entry logic and the exit logic for our signals that get drawn onto the chart. But I'm going to add a couple more features to the script. I'm not going to leave it here. We're going to add a regime filter so that we only take long trades when the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or some other market index is trading above a key moving average. And we'll also add a little backtester display. So let's do that now. To get the regime filter code, I'm going to copy and paste it from a previous lesson as well. So here I am in the course material. If I scroll down to timeframes and markets, and we click on market regime filter, scroll down, and I want to copy all of the code except for the indicator part here. Copy, and we'll paste it up here. Paste. And I can bring that up, indent these, and I should probably group these separately as well. So let's add some groups really quickly. There we go. I've just added some groups to the end of our inputs to organize the settings menu a little bit better. We also need to add a Boolean here called use regime filter, so we can turn that filter on or off. If you're not familiar with what the regime filter does, make sure to go back and watch that lesson. But it's pretty simple. You'll see what it does in a moment when we get to modifying the code here. So I'm going to title this use regime filter, and we'll give it a default value of true and set it to the group underscore RF, short for regime filter. Now, if I minimize the editor here, you can see that we have a bit of a disaster going on here with the colors. That's because this regime filter indicator was initially designed to be in its own little indicator box, like a ribbon. So we need to change our background color code here to do something slightly different. For this, I'm going to use the plot shape function. We are always going to plot 1. And for the series we're going to plot, let's just plot the use regime Boolean. So it'll be 1 if it's true, 0 if it's false. And we'll give this shape a style of shape.square. We'll just make it a square shape. We'll set the size to size.normal and the location to location.bottom. So it'll be on the bottom of our chart, and we will set the color to this. If I cut this out, paste it in there. We'll also give it a title of regime filter. And now we can get rid of our background color function, save our code, and we should be getting a ribbon down the bottom here. There we go. So now, when this is green, the script is permitted to take trades. When it's red, it goes into defensive mode. So it will not take any new signals that are generated while the ribbon is red, because that means the S&P 500, in this case, is trading below a key moving average, the 20-period daily moving average. You could also change this to NASDAQ if you wanted to. So we could change it to NDX, for example. That might make more sense since we're on Apple here. So let's change the default here to, actually I'll leave it as BAT SPY, but you can change it here if you want to a different market index. For now, let's just leave it as the S&P 500. All right, so now that we have our regime filter code added, all we need to do in order to use it here is add a check here to say, is the regime filter not being used? So not use regime, or is this condition met? And I'm going to get rid of this other or here. We'll keep it really simple for this particular script. And all we're checking now is the current market price for our index trading above the key moving average we've put in the settings, so the 20 daily EMA. Now I can copy this regime filter and add it on the end of our entry condition. Save my code. And now the script will not enter a position if the ribbon is red. Another use case for this ribbon, this regime filter, which we won't cover in today's lesson. I want to keep this lesson short. But one use case for this is to use a trailing stop loss. So you could use, for example, a 1 ATR trailing stop below swing lows or below the current bar. And then when this regime filter turns red, you can decrease your ATR multiplier. So when it goes red, that can often mean that there's a correction imminent. And so when it goes red, you could have a tighter stop loss. So that the moment it goes red, your stop loss ratchets up to, let's say, a half ATR. So suddenly your stop jumps right up to below price action. And then once you get a close below that stop loss, you exit your position and you lock in more profit than if you wait for price to come all the way down and close below this lower band. That is something I personally use in some of my stock trading strategies, but for today's lesson, we'll leave that out to keep things simple. Maybe I will add that in a future lesson. For now, we're sticking to a really old school trend following approach where we're letting the market run as far as it possibly can by waiting for it to close below this lower band. Yes, that does give back a lot of profit, but it also allows you to stay in the move a lot longer and try and capture these longer term trends. Anyway, to wrap up this lesson, let's add our backtester code. So again, we can copy and paste most of this from the lesson titled, where is it? Strategy section, displaying backtest results. We can copy the code out of here. For today's lesson, I'm going to dramatically simplify this. So I won't actually copy this code from here, but I am going to use an adapted form of this code in today's script. So first of all, I'm going to paste in my user settings. We just have a starting balance, a risk per trade, and our draw backtester. We can actually get rid of the risk per trade. I'm not using that today. And we can also get rid of the starting balance. So for today's lesson, the backtested display we're going to be drawing is going to be very simple. So we only need one user input here. That is to draw the backtester or turn it on or off. And that's it. Now, if I scroll down to the very bottom, first of all, if you want to, you can add alerts to this script. So we could say Bollinger breakout detected for, and then we can add the siminfo.ticker and set the frequency to alert.frequency once per bar close. And I can paste that down here as well. Bollinger exit detected for. Now we have added alert functionality to the script, and if we come up to the settings and select our script, we can now be notified when a signal is detected. And next, I'm just going to paste in my custom backtest display code. I've kept it really simple for this lesson. You can expand on this in your own time if you want to add more metrics, tracking the total trades taken, our win rate as a percentage, our equity, our final equity at the end of the test, how much money we ended up with, and our percentage return. And all of this data, all of these metrics are analyzed using the inbuilt strategy tester variables. So now if I save my code, we should be getting a little table drawing up here. There it is. It shows us how many trades we took, our win rate, and our return as a percentage. These numbers should match what is shown in the strategy tester. And there you have it. We are done with the script. So if I open up the tester and open up my watch list, we can cycle through a couple of these markets and see how it performed. It's a pretty robust strategy. It doesn't take a lot of trades on a lot of these markets, but over a universe of stocks, over thousands of stocks, this strategy does have an edge. Now, it can have a pretty nasty drawdown, max drawdown. According to my testing using a different platform, I coded this strategy into Amy Broker and ran the test over thousands of stocks over the past 30 or 40 years, and it does have about a 35% max drawdown. But by adding things like a trailing stop loss and portfolio protection during prolonged bear markets, you can improve that drawdown quite significantly. But this strategy is profitable on the US stock market, the Australian stock market. Those are the only two universes of stocks that I've tested this strategy on. But it is nicely profitable. A couple of other things to note is that I trade